Dosto, good morning. It's a wonderful weather, and I'm going to enjoy talking to you today. Enjoy talking means इतनी development हो रही है world में every day that one really doesn't know what's going to happen. And I think the most seasoned political and military observers cannot give a forecast as to what is going to happen. But gentlemen, I'm going to give you some very startling forecasts, and let's examine it. And it shows that America, Russia, and China are probably in a big game. Now, that game can turn any way, but overall, I think America has got one aim, and that is to dominate the world. And part of that is they don't want Europe along with them. That's the first thing. Because Europe, as you know, has become like the old sick man. They had their empires at one stage, France and England, and now they're nowhere. And they were riding piggyback on the American horse, and showing their fists. We are great powers, but actually, they themselves knew that they had zero powers. And by claiming Greenland, I think Donald Trump has punctured NATO forever. Now, it all, I think, started off with Donald Trump's plan to remove Maduro, who was the president of Venezuela. It was a very simple game. They removed him. The Venezuelan army stood down. They were infiltrated. Their chief of the general staff probably gave the order, "Don't fire," and the Americans came. They captured the Venezuelan president and took him away. And this was a surprise to Russia and China, two other powers. The Russians were infuriated, more so because their importance in the Caribbean was apparent. They had an oil tanker going, which was put under the Russian flag, and a nuclear submarine came nearby. And the Russians thought the Americans will not stop the tanker because it's got the Russian flag and there's a nuclear submarine there. It was supposed to be a threat. You keep a fist, and the Russians thought the Americans will back down. But it didn't happen that way. What did the Americans do? They stopped the tanker and confiscated it. The crew was captured. There were three Indians in it. I don't know what happened to them. And the Russian submarine, which had surfaced, and it should have fired some guns or something. It was a nuclear powered submarine with nuclear weapons. But what it did, it just slunk away like a cat. I think it was a very prudent decision by Vladimir Putin because he knew he was in a weak ground in the Caribbean. And in case the submarine had created a problem, it would have probably been sunk. And Trump thought he's won a great victory. But victories don't come so easy because the Russians had their revenge and mounted a massive attack in Ukraine. They have been using multiple re entry missiles which will fire multiple warheads, and the Ukrainians have been feeling the blast, of the Russian anger. And obviously, as we expected, Donald Trump has done nothing. On the contrary, he's thinking of taking over Greenland. You see the situation, gentlemen. It's a very peculiar situation. So, what has probably happened is the Russians have told the Americans, "Look, we're going to control Ukraine. You want to control Colombia? We'll do it here." And not only that, they have served notice to NATO that, "Look, you are defunct. You have nothing." And the smaller countries of Europe in NATO, like Estonia, Latvia, and Poland and Finland, I think they are under great threat. Denmark is under great threat. Denmark's got a small army. I don't know how they're going to defend um, this Greenland. There's a lot of bull if they say they're going to defend it. And they gave instructions to their army to fire on any intruders. I think it's going to be a very terrible thing if they do it. I think they probably lay down their rifles at the first shot when the Americans come. But mostly the Americans are going to get what they want. And Greenland, I think, in due course, would be part of America. And one thing is very clear that Europe, as a military force, all over the world is finished. So I think we can write off Europe completely. And the Russians will going to dominate Europe. I don't think NATO without America can fight Russia at all. Because NATO is USA, USA is NATO. The other countries are just, running here and there. Well, gentlemen, I hope you are liking this video of mine, and I'm giving you a new exercise into everything. And do subscribe to my channel, please. and I will be very happy if you share it, give your comment, and come back to me again and again. Now let's go ahead. Now Russia's got a problem with China. Now a lot of everybody's talking that Russia and China is a iron brothers, a big alliance, or whatnot. I don't think you take it that way. Basically, it's a demographic problem. Russia's got a population of about 15 crores. China's got a population of 140 crores. And Russia's got vast lands which are lying vacant in Siberia. And China has got some barren areas, like Tibet and Xinjiang, which they can't settle. So Chinese population needs space. You know what, like the Germans use that word, Hitler, Lebensraum? Well, that's what it is. And they can get it only in Siberia. And the American Russians are worried, well, if the Chinese infiltrate into Russia, Russia will be finished. So they wouldn't mind a detent with America. Now, that's a crucial point. I think Donald Trump has been driving on that edge all the time. A Russian American alliance against China. As far as Iran is concerned, it's not a power at all. The Americans are going to snuff it out, and the Ayatollah and Doge are going to run away. There's, I think, going to be little choice. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, whatever it is, but their regime is finished. And when it comes to brass tacks, I don't think Russia is going to back Iran to the hilt. And China doesn't have the power to intervene on behalf of Iran. So Iran is over, bar the shouting. And as far as Europe is concerned, I think you can use the same language for them. It's all over for them also for bar the shouting. They don't know what the hell is going to happen to them. The British themselves facing an insurrection inside their land with Muslims riding up, and the far right wanting to assert itself, and France in great problem with a 10% Muslim minority which are just not integrated into the French system, and same thing with Germany. Italy is almost over the hill like an old man, more older people than younger people. And the worst of all, the demographic population in Europe is tremendous. The women maybe can't conceive or don't want to conceive. The birth rate is somewhere hovering around 1 and 1.5. That means the population cannot be sustained. For that, you need a population 2.1. Now, the Russians are moving in aggressively, and I think there could be a tacit understanding that, look, we are going to take over Ukraine and you want to take over South America, well, go ahead and do it. That appears to be the signal because it's a realization of power politics. And let's be very clear that Russia and China know that they have lost badly in South America. And the Monroe Doctrine, which was put 200 years back by the American president at that time, is now alive and kicking again. So, gentlemen, the Europeans are the biggest sufferers. These powers thought they would be sitting on the American back and continue their, show their big fists to the world that we are great powers, but it's not going to happen that way. So they've been effectively written off by the Americans, and America looking to make America great again. That's what Donald Trump tries. But I think Donald Trump has miscalculated a little. Now, I'll tell you a little bit. They got a debt of some $38 trillion. How are they going to sort out that? One way is that they stop paying, don't recognize that debt, and go forward. They could do that because they have almost 700 military bases all over the world. That's number one. And the greatest military power. Even the Russians and the Americans are nowhere close to them. That's one method of doing it. Second method is to try and get as much of economic benefit as they can, like Venezuela. Now they've taken over the Venezuelan oil. They want to take over. They want to take over Greenland because Greenland in another 30, 40 years is going to be a very, very important strategic area because, as you know, the glaciers are melting, and once the glaciers start melting, in another 30, 40 years, the sea channels will open up and new routes will come up across there, the sea routes, and people or the ships will not have be to use the Suez Canal or other canals, and go through that. It's going to be a gamble, but the Americans want to go ahead and take it over, and there are a lot of minerals in Greenland. It's going to be very costly to mine them there because the most of the island is covered by permafrost, and to drill a hole through it and take the minerals is not going to be easy. So America is in trouble also, and it is looking to Greenland and countries like Venezuela where they can refurbish their coffers. That's the aim. Refurbish their coffers and go ahead. It's not going to be easy. Russians have got plenty of minerals. What I feel is going to happen is that Russia and America will probably have an understanding and they will look forward to contain China. How they do it, we'll have to wait and see. And the Chinese have got to be shrewd and face up to this problem. But as far as World War III is concerned, gentlemen, I don't think it's going to take place. I don't think there'll be a nuclear exchange because that would mean the destruction of the hegemony of both Russia and America. I don't think they're going to allow that to happen. I think that's enough, gentlemen. I think I will say goodbye and God bless. If you like my video, please share it with your friends. Come back to me more again and take care. And I hope what I've said about the World War III comes true. Goodbye.